ready for this.
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn, hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 25th episode of the Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. So I'm your host, Linus Daz Kilius, and I'm joined as always by Liqiud and Mystic. How's it going, boys?
Good.
25, man. That's old enough to get an insurance discount here in the States.
I know. We're hitting a quarter century with the episodes, eh? Almost half a year we've been doing this. So hopefully we've been getting better. We actually have new Twitter handles along, like on the VOD now. If you're watching live, you can see our Twitter handles below there. We actually convinced Mystic to join Liqiud today. Not to join Liqiud. To join Twitter today. So you can follow Mystic at Mystic Shroud. I actually changed my handle so it's more hot-centric now. I've been using the Nexus Trolls pretty consistently, but now I was like, hey, I got to separate my own personal stuff. So at Daz Hot, so you can follow me too. Liqiud GG, as always. IUD on the end of Liqiud. And if you're watching live, you can notice there's a fourth person on our screen here too. We've got a special guest today from the Bush Squad podcast. We've got Bacon. How's it going, Bacon? Welcome to the show, bud.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem.
A lot of fun.
Oh, it will be, sir. And especially if last week was any indication, because last week I actually guested on their show, the Bush Squad, and I learned quite a few things over there. First off, that you can never have too many people on a show, because I think it was it 6 people? I even lost track of how many people, including myself. And you're missing a host too, right?
Yeah, it's usually 6 people.
Jesus. Yeah, I'm always worried.
Squad.
I'm always worried about mic time when we've got 4 people on, but you guys handle it well. It's
it's
pretty
even more fun when half of them are drunk, so you should be there for those too.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, and I had a blast and learned a lot of things too. Like, we should keep the mics rolling after the show's done and potentially put some bloopers on the end. I think I might do that today too. So, Liqiud, Mystic, be prepared. Bacon's pretty.
Not sure about that. It gets a little raunchy sometimes.
Well, I listened to the show from last week, and at the end there was some stuff that we did from the preamble before the show actually started recording. I was like, I don't remember that. I was like, oh my gosh, they were actually rolling the mics when I was talking about I was telling a story about my wife and going to BlizzCon and how I conned her into going and such. Hopefully she's not going to listen to the show, because there might be some.
We try to. Matt tries to trap people into saying stuff, and you're pretty good about it.
Yeah, no, he did a good job.
Let's be honest. We both had to con our wives into letting us go to BlizzCon. So
I know it's actually funny on the Bush Squad show too. They're all talking. They're like, Liqiud, he's up all the time. He must be single. And I was like, nope. He's got a very understanding wife. That's for sure.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, but. Anyways, we've got a great show on the docket today. Like I said, we've got a special guest, Bacon from the Bush Squad. We're going to talk a little bit about Heroes 2.0, because that's coming out next week, next Tuesday. I'm super excited for that. We've also got a new hero, Genji, who I've got in the background of my VOD if you're looking here, that we're going to talk about some first impressions on. Hanamura, the new Battleground as well, which is probably the craziest battleground I've ever tried before. So much going on that battleground, so we'll talk about that a little bit too. And not if that's not enough, we had a beta patch hit on the 2.0 beta patch, and there's a whole bunch of hero changes. We're only going to go over a few of them because we know we're not going to have enough time to go over all of them, including the major rework to Uther too, which I really want to talk about because I think Uther might be back. It's been a while since we've seen him in the meta. And then Bacon's also going to do his Bacon Bit segment, which he just started recently up on Bush Squad podcast too. Very similar to Mystic Shakedown. And as a matter of fact, we're going to do Mystic Shakedown. Bacon's like, can I do my bit on the show? I was like, that'd be great. And then I looked at the 2 topics they both had, and they're the exact same ones. And we were joking about it too, that Bacon is Bush Squad's Mystic. He's their best player. He's also their Oriental guy too. So that's Mystic on our end too.
I wasn't gonna make that connection, but I'm gonna let that go.
Oh man.
Different countries though.
What just happened?
But still, we got the Gankbush Squad version of Mystic to do Bacon Bits instead of Mystic Shakedown this week. And at the very end of the show, too, we're going to toss in a little nugget in there because I lost last week's debate, so I had to do the punishment, and I had to make a hero in the likeness of Liqiud. And, oh, man, as per usual, we always have fun doing those punishments and such. So,
Man, that's
yeah.
guy. Wow.
Before we start, though, I'm going to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/the Nexus Trolls. The show's always going to be free. I always say that. But if you're looking for a way to support the show, head over to patreon.com/the Nexus Trolls, and you can support us there. But you know what? We want to talk with Bacon a little bit more, because I've had the taste of bacon in my mouth. Oh, my God. Where am I going with this? I shouldn't have even started that sentence. But you know what?
What just happened?
I don't know.
It works both ways. It's both salty, they're long.
Oh, no.
What else can you do?
You know what's happened here? The flavor of the Gankbush Squad has migrated into the Nexus Trolls, and I've already started talking dirty.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there it is right there. So, you know what? Regardless, I've really been excited to have Bacon on for this week. So we want to talk to him a bit. But you know what? We've said Gankbush Squad a few times. A lot of people are like, you know, I've never heard of the Gankbush Squad. So Bacon, you want to tell us a little bit about what your show's like and why people might want to head over and listen to it after this one's done?
Yeah, so what do you get when you have 5 to 6 people that are middle-aged and grew up in bar culture in a Heroes of the Storm podcast? That's what the Gankbush is, basically. So we're a bunch of buttheads that decided that we like talking about the game. And actually, I joined halfway through around episode 25. So it was usually everyone else on the show, but about episode 25, I got to meet Matt. And weird story is I just talked to him like, hey, Matt, I'm a big fan of the show, or Fringe Average. He's the host of the show. So Fringe Average, I'm a big fan. I've listened to pretty much every episode, and we just got to chatting. And then randomly he was like, hey, why don't you come on the show? So I was like,
in case
okay,
5
I guess
wasn't
I'll
enough.
come on. Yeah.
In case 5 wasn't
And,
enough, they had a 6th. Yeah.
Ever since, I just kept coming back, and he hasn't told me to stop. So 6 months
You're
later,
just always there,
yeah,
and that's the way it is, right?
yeah, I still haven't gotten fired yet. So
You're like the guy when I went to university, like that lived on our couch basically, and he just like showed up one day and just kept staying there. And I didn't know even where the guy lived, but he just kind of hung out with us and never left, and we never told him to leave. And that's you, Bacon. You're the guy.
And
on the
every
couch.
day,
Yeah.
every day I bring a small piece of furniture, maybe an item of clothing, and then
Slowly moving in.
yeah, eventually I kick out a roommate.
So where can people find the Gankbush Squad if they want to listen to it?
So we're on all the usual podcast websites. Just search for Gankbush, and Gankbush is one word. We're on gankbushsquad.com, and those are the two big things. So we really appreciate if people give us iTunes reviews, because those are the big ones to
sure.
keep track of.
Yeah, and they don't record live too, so it's audio only. But so yeah, you can find it on all the usual channels. If you just search for Gankbush Squad, I'm sure it'll pop up on pretty much any player you can think of. But that's another thing I learned too, that they don't start on time. I got really nervous. I sat there because we have to start right at 7:30 promptly because we do this live on Twitch. I got there like 15 minutes early. I was sitting there and got my mic ready, got Skype set up, got everything ready, and like they pull me in. They're like, Fringe was like, hey, yeah, we'll start pulling guys in. I was like, isn't the show starting now? And then people just like having technical problems, rebooting their computers and such. I was like, okay, that's how they roll here. This works out nicely, so I don't have to like stress out so much about being there on time. But yeah,
Look, you have no idea the disaster that is happening behind the scenes of the show. You guys are professional. You guys were all, a few minutes before, like setting up at 7:15, 15 minutes before the show. And the thing is, we have 6 members or 7 members sometimes, depending on the guest. And it's across like 4 different time zones. So we go from California to the East Coast to Abu Dhabi in the Middle East.
Ooh.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's rough.
a nightmare.
really spanning the globe. And
Yeah.
one thing that I really liked about your guys' podcast too, not to mention the bar banter and everything, but the fact that it's such a wide range of like play levels that you guys have. Like that's one of like the pitches that Fringe says like right at the top of the show. You know, we've got like a bronze level, silver level, platinum, diamond, master, right? And so you've got that wide spectrum of opinions, and we know the game is really different from bronze all the way up to master. Where I'm sitting here with Mystic, who he I'm not sure if he's ever been to master, but we know he is master level player if he put his mind to it, because he places a diamond 3 and sits there. He doesn't try.
That's all he does. He does his placements. He's like, cool, I'm done. And it's like, dude, like spend a weekend. Just play some games on a weekend. You'd be master in no time. Nah, it's cool. I'm good. What?
I wouldn't say
he knows the pain of the climb.
I've been there.
And
He's
like
been to the mountaintop. He doesn't need repeat visits.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
But
not like,
thanks for bringing that up, because I guess one of the big things about the podcast is we have so many different levels of experience, and one of the points we try to make is that every point of view from every level is valid, because the meta that exists is so different from ranking to ranking. So we try to incorporate every point of view, and when we discuss topics.
And that's one thing that like when like I was saying Mystics like diamond master level player, and then me and Liqiud, I don't know where you typically place Liqiud, but I'm usually like solidly in the platinums, right? You're probably platinum or diamond. So we have
right now, yeah.
a bit of a bottleneck view on things. So like meeting Tower Baron and hearing what he had to say, your bronze level player, was very interesting because it's a completely different game down there.
I have to defend him. He's a bronze type player. He'll forever. He's technically silver, but Matt Fringe likes to say that he's bronze type, so we can cover every ranking.
I was gonna say, what happens? You get like bumped off the show if you like come out of your slot. Be like,
Right.
oh,
All of a
sorry.
sudden you're silver. Oh man, we already got a silver. You gotta go.
Yeah, sorry, Tower. We need to find another bronze player. But yeah, bronze type. I guess that covers your bases a little bit. But yeah, I mean, like they did. They updated their tier rankings, because they do their tier rankings over gankpushsquad.com, and they have rankings based on like higher level play versus low level play. And I was sitting there trying, because my opinions were so much different than everybody else's, to see that too, because I'm so used to like having a similar opinion typically to Mystic and Liqiud here, but seeing everyone's opinions over there and like what their takes were on certain heroes was definitely interesting. So it's definitely,
and we love to flesh out arguments.
Yeah.
So your differing opinion was welcome, because it's fun to hash out, little details like that.
I feel like you're trying to bait me by saying fleshing out. I'm like, I'm not jumping to it there, baby.
My callbacks aren't that strong, sir.
Okay, guys. Well, why don't we jump into the news? And if I had my bumpers ready like I'm supposed to be, like a professional host, we'd be able to do it. Here we go.
Someday, this will make a great story.
That was me stalling for time. So we're actually not, well, I was going to say lighter on the news, but you know what? We're going to cover a lot of the news in subsequent segments here. First off, I want to say, though, that Nexus Trolls, we mentioned this week, we're all going to BlizzCon. We're going to be heading over, likely all three of us, at least myself, to the Con Before the Storm, which is the day before BlizzCon, which is also host to the World of Podcasts too. So there's gonna be a ton of podcasters and content creators there. They're gonna be doing panels. There's a bunch of like original artwork and everything. About 5,000 people I think went to that Con Before the Storm last year. It's completely free. But that being said, they can make it free because they have a Kickstarter. If you head over to conbeforestorm.com, that's without the, so conbeforestorm.com, or you can check them out on Kickstarter too. The links are in the show notes. You can go and try and back them to get their 14,000 goal. They were just short of it last time I checked. But yeah, once they meet that stretch goal, they'll organize the event. The more money they get to, the bigger the event will be. The more stuff they'll be able to put in there too. So definitely check it out. And if you're heading to BlizzCon, head on over there. Like I said, it's the night before. Definitely head out a day early. Come meet us and like hang out with us. We'd love to hang out with you guys. And it's not just us. Gankpush Squad's going to be there too. They're all going to BlizzCon, or at least a bunch of them. I'm not sure if all of you guys are going, because there are 60. That's a lot of people to organize, especially from Abu Dhabi. I'm not sure if he's heading over, but we're definitely going to get a few of you guys out there too. So come hang out with us as well as Gankpush Squad, and maybe some of your other favorite podcasts as well. You're heading over there, right, Bacon?
Yeah, all of us were able to get tickets, and we're all going. So
I can't believe you can coordinate that. Even like across the globe, you guys are all heading over to BlizzCon, eh? That important,
Right? That's impressive.
You know how hard it
Yeah,
was to get, you know how hard it was to get
Sorry, go
Mystic
ahead.
to come? And Mystic lives in Oregon, I think. So it's not much. It's not too far for him to go.
That's almost
Right.
driving distance.
Almost.
Yeah.
Almost.
yes, almost.
So
I made the drive down there once, and it was pretty awful. It was like 8 hours of just straight driving. It's pretty bad.
they're only about $800 short of their 14K stretch goal right now.
Oh wow, so that's pretty awesome. So they're
Yeah.
guaranteed going to make it. I mean, I think the Kickstarter ends at the end of May or something, so they're going to have plenty of time to get there. But you know what? They do have a bunch of stretch goals they're trying to get to too. So if it's something that you and a lot of cool bonuses too, if you do pledge money, you can get a lot of like kind of perks and such too. So check that out for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So Heroes 2.0 drops next Tuesday, guys, April 25th. Got loot boxes, new player progression, tons of skins, all sorts of new stuff. We're not going to go into the details, but y'all excited? I'm pretty excited. What do you think, Mystic?
I'm definitely excited for all those loot boxes and those potential skins that I might get.
Save your loot boxes. I'm just gonna throw that out there now. If you can save your loot boxes because you don't need anything right now, the loot in the loot box is not calculated until you open the box. So if you don't need anything, save those loot boxes. Don't turn it into shards.
That's like saving your presents on Christmas for like.
I don't
Boxing
know
Day.
how I'm going to do it, man. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm like, I have my goal. My goal is Master Skin Valera and then save my loot boxes. And like, that's my target, and I'm trying to stick to it.
You know, what my first question next week's going to be for you. Did
Do
you
I have
did,
Master Skin Valera?
no,
Or did I open my boxes?
Did you open all your boxes?
I think I'll open my veteran ones, but the 66 regular loot boxes is what I'll end up saving.
Well, that's definitely a strategy, and I mean, I'm sure you've probably thought. I feel like Liquid's probably overanalyzed the situation too with rerolls and everything as well. Liquid, so what is the best use for your money currently? Your gold coins, because we're switching over currencies basically, right? So,
Right. So it all comes down to if there's post 2.0, if you have all the skins you want right now, rerolling is the way to use your gold. If, like in my situation, there is like I want Valera's Master Skin and I'd like Zarya's Master Skin, but Valera is the one I have to have. Zarya is like a nice to have. So I know I'm spending 20K on both of those because I want all three tints in those, right? So if you have a Master Skin that you want, get it now before 2.0 because you'll get all three tints for way less effort than you will post 2.0. If you don't want any Master Skins, save all of your gold now for rerolls.
Done.
So
Yep, and I guess that so if you pull a legendary or an epic that you already have or you don't want, I guess the idea there is it's worth the 250 or whatever
Yes.
the coins are to do the reroll,
Yes.
right?
it is even the only boxes that aren't really worth the reroll are the base level. I can't remember what they're called now. It's not even the
commons.
rare. It's like the common boxes. Yeah. You know, if you got a bunch of spare gold and you play, like I play the game a decent amount, right? So I have gold. I was at 100K not too long ago. I'm still sitting at like 92, even after buying a couple of Master Skins. If you have the gold, 250 is not like roll the box. Worst that happens, you don't get anything and you're still sharding everything, right? So I'll probably reroll every box I get that I don't like stuff in. But we'll see. We'll also see. I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to hold on to those boxes, man. Like every time I log in, I'm gonna see loot box number up there, and I'm gonna be like, Plus, all cards on the table. I really want Zarya's new skin. So I'll probably be buying gems day one, and buying the skin with gems. That bundle because I really want that skin. That skin, the Hanamura skin on Zarya looks sick. So.
Dude, you're already back.
So here's Liquid's
no.
situation. Next week, Daz is gonna ask Liquid, how's it going with the loot boxes? I have no loot boxes, no gold, nada, and I still don't have the Valera Master Skin.
Yeah.
No, I'm really close to that. I'll be 9 tonight. So that and I took Friday off, and I already told my wife Friday, Saturday, Sunday I'm gonna lock myself in the office. I'm gonna put HTC on my TV. And I'm just gonna play all weekend. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Like, you have the kids. I'm closing that door, and the only time I will leave is to grab food.
What a
Understanding
boss.
wife.
I mean, so Yeah, she's like the most supportive of my crazy habit, and I admit I have a habit. I mean, I bought 10 mystery mini boxes today, or not today, but like a while ago. I bought her a hoodie. I bought one of my kids two hero shirts, and I bought 2 of the bigger figures. Like I'm like it's an addiction, but I love this game.
It's a great game.
So-
Well, Bacon, what are you going to be spending your money and shards on when 2.0 hits? Do you have any sort of skins that you've been eyeing down? Maybe Primeval Diablo? I know a lot of people have been looking for that one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try to get as many legendaries as possible and just start, stacking shards. And I have a lot of mounts already, so I'm not really a mount farmer. And I just, there are a lot of cool skin tints that I'm eyeing. So here and there, so Diablo, I'm trying to get that, and maybe the new Ariel skin looks really rad.
Hanamura Ariel skin,
yeah.
the Geisha one, yeah.
I just like the fact
Yeah, and
that
then the new Zarya, because I love my Zarya.
in just the
Primeval Diablo is a sick skin too. Like I do plan on trying to roll for that one. Bacon might be right, Daz. It might be Wednesday, and I'm like, dude, I'm out of boxes. I have no room.
There's so much good content now. It's hard to wait for what you
Right.
don't know what's coming, right?
Right.
That's one of the coolest things about 2.0 is the fact that you don't have to pay money for skins and cool stuff anymore, right? Like before, like I think I've bought maybe 1 or 2 skins before, like outside of master skins, and that's it. Because I find, and I'm sure a lot of people are similar too, find it hard to justify paying for cosmetics. Like I can understand from my aspect, I buy a lot of heroes, like the new heroes when they come out. Because I feel like it adds to the game, right? Whereas cosmetic is purely cosmetic. I think Mystic's probably along my lines too, right? But now we're gonna have the option to try out some these new skins and cosmetics, or old skins and cosmetics that we've wanted to have for so long too. What do you think, Mystic? Is there anything you're vying for here?
I mean, there's a lot of skins in the game that I'd be happy to get, but there's nothing that I'm really eyeing. I'm kind of just like, I'll open all these loot boxes because I'm going to get a lot of value out of it, right? I don't have like any skins or anything, and so I'm just going to be like, all of this stuff is going to be new. However, I won't be getting the shards, so that's kind of a bummer, but whatever. I'll take what I can get, really.
Mystic will finally have skins, so I'm looking forward to that. I just for giggles, and this is, I should probably not say this because my wife will probably eventually catch on to this. But I just added up what I spent just this year, like since, December.
You sure you want to disclose this?
Oh yeah, I would keep that quiet.
I spent $250 on stuff in this game since December. Like what? I should not have looked that up.
You know what though? For those that are spending and looking back and like maybe regretting their decision to spend that much money,
Which I don't. Just so we're clear, I don't regret
Yep.
it. Just,
think how much value you've had out of that $250, for instance.
oh,
too.
for
Like,
sure. That's,
if-
yeah.
Yeah, the amount that you put into the game, the amount of playtime you have is more than probably 3 or 4 major platform games, and that's about what the equivalent price would be, right?
Right.
So-
Well, and that's why my wife really won't. She's not gonna care. She knows how much I spend. She just looks at it as, this is the only game I play. Like everybody else plays lots of games. This is literally the only. I'm either playing the game, watching the game, talking about the game, or writing about the game. So like,
I'm just waiting for your wife to walk in, like pull you out of the room and like turn off your computer. So if that happens, we'll continue. The show must go on. So we'll continue without you. And it's been good knowing you, Liqiud.
On the other side of the spectrum, I can count how much I've spent on this game on my hands. I've spent $10.
$10.
I think I've spent more for Mystic on this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Christmas gifts from Liqiud just get me some of those heroes while we were playing competitive.
There's a host on the Gang Push. His name is Scott, and he makes it a point of pride that he spent $0 on the game so far. No master skins, no skins at all, and he rides every mount as the poor man's horse. What's that called? The stock horse.
I
Yeah,
just
pleb
call
horse.
it the pleb horse.
Yeah,
He makes it a point of pride that he only has like 5 mounts.
and you can do that, right? Like that's amazing.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people I know don't spend a dime on the game too, and there's no reason you have to. Which is
You know what I like? what I
Because
really
Liquid's
like for 2.0.
paying for everyone else's game
I
time.
pay
man.
for everyone else. So like I pay for a lot of stuff, right? And I'll buy the stuff I still want. I'll buy the gems and then I'll buy it with gems and I'll still play and I'll get duplicates and shards and all that stuff. That doesn't bother me. But what makes me really happy about it is my Smurf account now that I play every once in a while will have a much easier time getting skins and stuff. Because I buy nothing on that account. That account literally only exists with heroes that I play regularly so that I can jump on it if I want to just have a game and not worry about, you know, like have fresh MMR and just play, right? So that's really nice. But other than that, I mean, I was looking the other day and I promise to all you listeners, I'm not just bragging, like this is just reality. I was looking the other day, I have like every mount but the Void Speeder and the Hearthstone card. And you're not going to be able to buy those, right? I mean, you can buy the Void Speeder, but I refuse to buy StarCraft 2, whatever the last expansion was, just for that mount. I bought World of Warcraft Legion for the mount. I'm not going to do it with StarCraft 2. So, but yeah, I have all that stuff. Like I've unlocked it or I've bought it so I'll have a ton of shards. That's really why I want to try and force myself to hold my loot boxes. Because if you're like me and you've bought everything already, like every time a skin that I even pseudo like, whether I play the hero or not, is on sale, I buy it. Because I'm like, well, when I play the hero, which isn't very often, it's more often now that I'm not on a competitive team. I want to be able to wear a skin that I think looks cool, so I buy it. That's why I want to save my boxes. So when they release new content, I can use the boxes for a chance to get that content, rather than what I know is already going to be dupes. So
free-to-play players everywhere can thank all the players like Liquid who spend tons of money on the game and, like I said, support their habit. That's why Blizzard makes money. They can afford to do a free-to-play model because there are people that are willing to pay for the game, but you don't have to if you don't want to. That's a great thing about free-to-play. Don't want to stick on this topic too much. We've got so much to cover. We haven't even talked about the new hero yet because Genji and the new Battleground Hanamura both got announced. We're going to deep dive into those in a second. But we also want to let everybody know there's going to be a Reddit AMA on Monday about Genji and Hanamura specifically on Reddit at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. And I'm sure we'll probably go over some of that stuff, what comes out of it next week. And I'm sure Alebeard is going to have a great article summarizing all of that on blizzpro.com. So you can always check that out there, Alebeard. Great friend of the show, great at summarizing stuff and making our life easier for our research. But that being said, HGC's back, and I know that Liquid HGC, woo, and Liquid's got a lot to say. So let's jump in his Liquid's esports corner.
Hey yo, how you doing? It's time for Liquid's esports corner. That's right, and you're gonna want to stick around for this.
Take it away, Liquid.
All right, so lots of stuff to cover. Share week 4 of the playoffs, the final 4 going this week. Almost done. Chair League Season 4 coming to a close. I will be casting the finals on Saturday for Division 1. That should be a good time. All of the teams have actually been doing really good. The games Mystic and I've cast have been like really close games. Your where you finished in the season really didn't matter at all. Like if you made it into the playoffs, there were teams we cast a couple that were like number 14 beating number 1s. So but a good season. I think Season 4 of Chair League has been really good. Season 5 is going to be a bit different, so we'll cover that in the future after a little more information comes out. But, you know, check out Chair League. If you're anywhere in the scene and you like playing pseudo-competitively or just with a bunch of friends one night a week, check out Chair League. Heroes Hype signed a agreement with Tempo Storm. And so Tempo Storm is actually... much like we had, I think Misfits was doing the Heroes tournament over in EU, the amateur tournament. Tempo Storm is working with Heroes Hype here, and they're calling it now the Heroes Hype Tempo Storm Series 1. Starts tonight, week 1. Friend of the show, Haloran, is casting over at Heroes Hype, twitch.tv/Heroes Hype. I have to always double check that to make sure I say it right. And just announced, Arcane 8 just announced that Bloodlust 2017 is coming back July 28th through the 30th, which will be awesome. Amateur qualifiers starting April 30th. Sign up now. 2 teams from that qualifier will feed into the Bloodlust tournament, and pro qualifiers will happen in July. 2 teams qualify there, and then the four teams, they kind of do this pro amateur thing. It's really cool. I know I throw a lot of hate on Solid Jake for like leaving the scene, coming back to the scene, and all that shit, but like he really works hard for Heroes of the Storm, and the guys over at Arcane 8 do a really good job. And he does a great job covering HEC Open Division. So definitely check out Bloodlust as well. It's a good tournament. I watched it last year. It worked out well. But you know what? Daz led me in with HGC, and I immediately went to amateur stuff. So let's jump into HGC. We have had 2 weeks of the current system for China. We've had another 1 week in this phase for NAEU and Korea. And there's some interesting things going on out there. HGC China, of course, running Monday, Tuesday, and that's being cast by Kendrick Swish. Actually, really, really cool stuff. They actually interviewed the lead battleground designer. Yesterday. And Ailbeard always hooking us up. Wrote up a quick little bullet point of a couple of things. Nothing really jumped out, just some stuff, repeats of some stuff he's already said, but good information. But we do have CE currently in first place at 2-0, and they are actually 6-0 in their match. So they've won both sets 3-0. And then we have E-Star also 2-0, but they are sitting at 6-1, so they are in second place. Both of those teams look to be ready and set up to just completely dominate HGC China and then go into the next tournament as the number 1 and number 2 seed coming out of China. HGC Korea, L5 and MVP Black are just like tearing that scene up. L5 more than MVP Black. Their record's currently sitting at 9-0 with a 27-2 match record, which is just like crazy to me. The only ones that get close to that will be Team Liquid, which we'll cover in a minute in EU. But then MVP Black sitting at 7-1 with a 21-6 record. The games they lost, if I remember correctly, one of that sets was to L5. And I believe one of the losses L5 has in its match set was to MVP Black. I'd have to double check like way back in my spreadsheet. But going into Europe, we have Team Liquid in first place, ex-Misfits. They were Misfits until just after the Western Clash. Now Team Liquid has re-signed them and Misfits let them go. They are the only Western team that is 9-0 with a 27-9 match record right now. Number 2 and number 3 rounding that out, Fnatic and Dignitas. Fnatic 7-1, Dignitas 7-2. And I actually wasn't going to list Dignitas until I realized that both of their match records are identical at 23 wins and 10 losses overall. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little data point. And then over to NA, we have Tempo Storm in first, 8-1. I think they'll stay in first. I think GFE is also in a good spot. I feel like the games we saw, I don't know if you guys watched it this weekend, but the games we saw with GFE this weekend were they felt like they were back to their old playing ways, where it was like really, really good to watch them. In fact, when I first started the notes, I think that was Friday I asked you for that, Daz, maybe Saturday. I put GFE and Naventic were back in form because Naventic had a really good day Friday. And then Naventic fell apart on Sunday. And I was like, well, that line's gone. So I went to just standings instead. But GFE is currently 6-2 in second place with 22-8 match record. In Team 8, surprising a lot of people, sitting in third place at 6-3 with a 20-12 match record. I think that's probably where the top 3 is going to end this season, but we'll have to see what happens. HGC EU Open, nothing really happening because they have not had their next cup. But they will actually play the 23rd and 24th, which is a Sunday, Monday this coming week, and that will be the last week for them before playoffs. Now, the way this works is they go through the cups, they go into playoffs. Top 2 teams from there are the 2 teams that are going to end up taking place in the Crucible. The same thing is about to happen for NA. Mystic and I cast a actually really great set of games on Monday, the 17th. We even covered imported support for the last set of the night. Imported support, well, LFM Esports, imported support, and UTA are the top 3 teams. LFM is ahead by a large margin. They ended up winning again this week. Imported support finished second. UTA actually made it into the third place game and lost, finishing 4th. Before the game, Cavalier Guest was telling me that UTA was trying to say that they were a little rusty. I watched a little bit of their games. I could see that. Like, there were decisions made that you were just like, those are not the guys that won Heroes of the Dorm and went 27-0. They still did good, but it was clear whether they just went out and partied a whole lot after Dorm, or I don't know what happened. I hope they can fix it. regardless, like they're clearly into the playoffs. The playoffs are going to be the top 16 teams. There's one cup left for NA, and then you have to get through the playoffs to get into the Crucible. They're in the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat LFM Esports or Imported Support. So they may not make it to the Crucible. I do think that in both EU Open and NA Open, and yes, I watch them both. I watch Grubby for EU, and I watch, Mystic and I cast NA, and then I watch some of the final day on Tuesday on Arcane 8 and on Cavalier Guest. I do think the pros need to look out. I think one of these teams is going to replace them.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. What do you think, Bacon? Do you think any of these teams are going to supplant some of the lower, especially North American teams there?
I think Naventa needs to go. That's
Yes.
yes. Personally, whoever replaces him, it doesn't matter as long as they get knocked out, and then hopefully that lights a fire under them.
As long as Unit can get booted out, I would be happy.
Lag.
Right?
Lag F, right?
All the time.
But,
That dude drives me nuts. Oh my god.
Xenofeed.
Xenofeed.
About UTA, I heard if it's, I don't know if it's true or not, but a rumor was that UTA, they don't really like each other, and that the team is kind of falling apart.
You know what?
That's what I heard.
I can't confirm that. I could absolutely see it being the case. They came together to win Dorm. They got close last year. They finished in second. They knew they could win it this year. I could 100% see that being the case, and I could also believe that is part of the problem that they're having with each other. Like, yes, I believe that could be the case. I haven't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, they've won the tournament. They got the scholarship, so
right.
Like, just go to school, I guess.
Well, right. I mean, and I think that's what you'll see happen. So the problem is rosters are still locked with HCC Open Division. So if they want a chance to hit the pro scene and like get in, even if 4 out of the 5 of them want to hit that pro scene, they'll probably drag the 5th through just for their chance to get in. Post playoffs, I think they can make 1 or 2 roster changes. They could, of course, reform the entire team and just be like, yeah, we're a brand new team and start over point wise. At this point, that doesn't work because you're so close to the playoffs. Like, you can't win enough points to guarantee a spot in the playoff. You couldn't before last week. So I could see them staying together just to stay together to try and like achieve that pro status. But yeah, that actually explains a lot of kind of some of the decision making we saw going on in NA Open Division this week. I did forget one last thing. I tweeted out about this that Blizzard absolutely killed me. There was 0 time to sleep this weekend. Babel is now casting the HCC SEA games on Blizz Heroes SEA. So like literally on I think it was Saturday, there was 0 time to sleep because SEA was started. Okay, that's right. Friday night NA ended. Then SEA started. When SEA ended, China started. When China ended, there's or not China, Korea ended. There's like an hour between Korea and EU, which I guess maybe you could take a nap. And then EU starts. And when EU ends, NA starts. And then when NA ended again, SEA was starting in. I was like, dude, like how? Like how am I? What? I want to partake, Blizzard, but how am I supposed to like survive? Like mentally, I just can't do this.
When do you have time to poop?
You don't, man. You literally can't do it. I should
Grab
stop
that
saying
sock.
literally because it's really not literally.
Oh Lord.
But I like the TV. My wife looked at me Sunday night because we were watching. She's like, I don't care what we watch. I'm just gonna read. So I had HCC on again, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, didn't you just watch this?" I'm like, "No. This is a different team, and it's playing another team." And she's like, "Yeah, but you've been watching this for like 9 weeks in a row now. Like, when does it end?" I'm like, "It never ends. BlizzCon, that's when it ends." She just shook her head, and she's like, "You're crazy." I'm like, "I know, but like, it legitimately doesn't end until BlizzCon, right? Because there's a couple of bye weeks in there, but like HGC runs through BlizzCon, so yeah."
Most people don't find it to be a problem because they're not staying up for every like game for every division. I think most people just tune into like a couple games here and there, right? That's what definitely what I do.
I've had to stop watching them live. Like I was slowly going crazy with the 4 a.m. Korean wake ups and then trying to do the other ones. So I do watch the entire stream, which is still in and of itself crazy because I just go to Twitch. I'll find where they started the 8-hour stream and press play, and I just let it run while I do other things. So it's it wouldn't be Red Bull, it would be Mountain Dew. Just for the record, Ogre. But
You
yes.
know, the funny thing is, I actually used to do the same thing that Liquid did, except for League of Legends, and that didn't last very long. I couldn't keep up with all that stuff. They're like
It's rough.
NA, EU, and Korea, man.
It's rough.
But I have to say, you are indeed crazy, but respect, man, respect.
Thank
I
you.
can see a yellow glow around you whenever you talk about the HGC, so it kind of rubs off on us, at
Definitely.
least for
Yeah,
me.
no, I love it. I really do. Like, I love everything they're doing. I'm really excited. Like, I watched a lot of the esports in 2016, but with the launch of HGC and everything they're doing, and like the open division, to me, the open division is actually the most important part. Like, I like watching all of the various regions, but to me, open division is where it's at, because you're giving these amateur teams a chance to like displace the pros and take a spot, and like that's huge. And I'm really pulling for all these amateur teams to push out a pro team. It doesn't have to be an Naventic. Chances are good it will be Naventic, and it would make my day if it was Naventic. And the weird thing is, I used to like Naventic until I started watching him more, and I was like, man, Fan is this really talented guy, and he's just being held back by like a couple of people on Naventic. And I feel bad because Big E is actually pretty good, and I feel like he's kind of just stuck. But like the open division to me is just this huge thing for like, I want LFM to make it. I want Import Sport. I want whoever the top 2 NA and top 2 EU teams are, I want them to boot out 2 pro teams. And like Over said, even if an amateur team doesn't make it, like all of the pros will be watching those games. And so maybe your team doesn't make it, but maybe, you know, one of the tanks off Imported Support or LFM Esports or, you know, Team Zealot is picked up by like Team Liquid and like, or, you know, any other team, right? Like there's always that possibility. So to me, like that's the thing that really makes it for me. Just the fact that they're doing that, and that there's money, and they're paying, you know, teams in X dollars. I think it was like 100K a year. Yeah, that's not a lot of money, but it guarantees that team some money, and that allows them to go do tournaments and other things. So yeah, it's cool. It's in a good place.
I gotta cut you off, Liquid.
I know, man. I'm
We've been
sorry.
talking about esports for so long, and there's so much to cover. I'm sitting here, I can just feel Mystic being like, "We're gonna go overtime. We're gonna go overtime." So I gotta make sure I got the show moving along, because I know if I keep letting you go, you'll go like literally forever, because we know you don't sleep, and we'll all have to take a nap while you're monologuing.
You guys will all
right?
tap out while I'm still talking.
So let's
So
move.
I was about to like troll and ask like what Liquid thinks about the difference between a Korea and an NA, but
Oh,
leave
man,
that for
no,
another
you don't
day.
want to do that. I want you to come back and we can have that discussion, because I will absolutely sit here and talk about that all
I mean,
day.
as a Korean and a Korean fanboy and Korea HGC fanboy, I do have my opinions, and
L5 best in the world hands down, and I love watching Korean games. I go, all right, I swear Dad's last thing, I swear. All right, I will go, because I watched it all at once, right? So I watched the whole spectrum, and so Monday is actually the best day for me, because Monday I go from Korea, NA, EU, China, or like right, Sunday into Monday I get all 4 regions, and so I'm just watching it, and I'm like, man, I love NA. I'm an NA boy. I love NA. GFE is my team, hands down. I love GFE. Udall, Crowan, and Fan are like it's awesome. Like that is my top 3 if I was gonna just pick top 3, just NA, right? But when I watch NA after watching Korea and EU, I'm like, this makes me sad, because we're not at that level. Even NA to EU. But then if you take Korea, like I'm watching these Korean Karazims, and I'm like, Karazim can do that? like, what are you doing? Like, how? What? And you and like the sick plays in the micro that the Koreans have with each of their characters, that then gets rolled up into like this incredible macro that you're like, you like, my mind is constantly blown. So like, no, absolutely, I love Korea. and Monday is worse because I see Korea on one side, I see China on the other, and I see EU and NA sandwiched in between, and I'm like, dude, there's no way that EU or NA is ever gonna win again in a world championship, because if they beat Korea, they're losing to China. There's no like Western team that will beat both of those regions and like hold the trophy up. Like, it'll never happen. Well, maybe next year, but it ain't happening this year.
So Bacon, I can tell that this is the first time you've guessed it on our show, because if you bring up esports, even if you ask Mystic the question, Liquid's going to start diatribing about it again for 2 minutes.
Hey, no. Daz, you're going to hate me because I can go on for another hour about this stuff, too.
Daz is like, we have show notes.
I'm trying to rein in Liquid. Bacon's like, I got one more question. I'm like, no, don't do it. It's like, I got a question for Mystic. I'm like, it doesn't matter because Liquid's going to answer
it. Doesn't matter who you ask.
What do you think about the training schedule between?
Oh my God.
No. Okay, we're talking Genji.
No.
We're moving on to Genji. We're going to be talking tons more Heroes Esports next week. But for now, we're going to move on to Genji, because I know a lot of people are probably sitting here being like, when are they going to talk about Genji? And the answer to that is right now, because Genji got announced just recently. He's obviously the very popular Overwatched ranged assassin. And he looks pretty cool. I've had a chance to play him in the beta quite a bit. So I'm just going to go over his kit, and then we'll have like just our initial impressions about Genji. So start off with his trait. So his trait is called Cyber Agility. It's on his D. It's activatable, and it's really just a fourth ability more than a trait itself. So it's a 10-second cooldown. It costs no mana. You activate to jump to a targeted area. Bacon is trying to mess with my show notes as I'm reading this, making it difficult. This reminds me of when we had Shiz on the show, because Shiz, one of our original hosts, would constantly change up the show notes and try and mess me up. I gotta say, Bacon, you're better than he is day one at trying to do that, because it's tough to follow these when people are typing. But I'm gonna do my darndest.
I didn't add that first little blip. I deleted what I contributed.
Okay, so many people on our Google Doc, it's hard to know. So Genji's basic abilities, but anyway, Cyber Agility, you can hop over terrain, such too, important to note. And it is a 10-second cooldown, so you can use it quite frequently. His basic abilities on his Q, he's got Shuriken. It's 15 mana, 12-second charge cooldown. Throws 3 Shuriken in a spread pattern, each damaging the first enemy hits for 65 damage. You store up to 3 charges. Shuriken's cooldown replenishes all charges at the same time, which is important to note too, because after you throw your first one, the cooldown starts. So you want to make sure you get rid of your last 2 before they all reset, because then you'll get a brand new 3, and you're kind of wasting 2 charges if you don't get those second and third ones out before the 12 seconds expires. So Deflect on his W, 70 mana, 16-second cooldown. You become protected, very much like Varian, for 1.25 seconds. But any damage blocked during this period causes Genji to throw a kunai towards the nearest enemy, prioritizing heroes and dealing 55 damage.
So I just want to throw something out. That wrecks the boss on Hanamura right now, if you time it right. Like, completely wrecks that boss.
Good to know, because that boss is interesting too. I can't wait to talk about him a little bit more. On his E, we've got Swift Strike. It's 75 mana, 12-second cooldown. This is a huge dash forward. We're talking like 3/4 of the screen, and you deal 215 damage to all enemies in a line, so it's his highest damage ability as well. Enemy heroes who die within 2 seconds after being hit by Swift Strike cause the cooldown and mana cost to be refunded, which is really important, because if you die far in their back line, you ain't getting out unless you get this refresh. And then finally, his 2 heroic abilities, and we're not going to go over his whole talent tree. We'll see that for next week when we go a deep dive into Genji. He's got Dragon Blade, which is 50 mana, 80-second cooldown. You unleash the Dragon Blade for 8 seconds. And during those 8 seconds, Dragon Blade can be reactivated to lunge forward and slash in a huge arc, almost like Zul's Scythe when he does a sweeping strike bit. Dealing 240 damage. If an enemy hero is killed within 2 seconds after being hit by Dragon Blade, Swift Strike, his E jump ability, is reset, which is great. And then finally, he's got X Strike. 90 mana, 80-second cooldown. You perform 2 perpendicular slashes that deal 135 damage and ignite after 1.25 seconds, dealing an additional 270 damage to enemies within the area of effect. So that does a big X on the ground and slash, and then boom afterwards.
He's going to be Valera's best friend.
You think so?
Yes.
Well, why is that? Let's start there.
Well, so think about it, right? The Swift Strike, like, I can set people up and get them low with Valera and just Swift Strike in, kill, reset, right? During Dragon Blade, you can just go to town. So yeah, there's gonna be cool stuff you can do with him, or anybody that really excels at getting heroes low. He's a finisher, right? That, like, his whole kit is designed to be the finisher. So, Diablo, Lightning Breath, getting a bunch of people low and he comes through and finishes them off. Or, I know Diablo is an edge case, but I'm looking at my little Diablo figure, so I'm going to use it. But he is hands down he's a finisher. So anything that can keep people low. Nova with her first, just her 2 regular skills on squishy targets can get them low. Or a good Asmo that's like fully stacked and dunks half the team to like a third of their health left. Swift strike through that, they're all dead. So there's going to be a lot of that. Like the Wombo, he's a finisher. He's an AoE finisher, not just a finisher, but an AoE finisher.
What do you think, Mystic, from first impressions on him? Do you think his damage is high enough or is he just purely a finisher like Liquid's talking about?
His damage is actually okay. With Dragon Blade, it becomes a little bit better. But yeah, I agree with Liquid that he's going to be a big finisher. It's actually, I feel like he's just a slightly different Li Ming, because Li Ming kind of does the same thing where she comes in, she does a lot of damage, AoE, and then she resets off of every kill. So Genji kind of does the same thing, and I was just thinking if you combine both of them and they do a lot of damage and then just reset off of everything, then you can have a big problem on your hands when your entire team just dies instantly.
What are your thoughts, Bacon, on the newest hero in the Nexus, or at least I guess soon to be the newest hero in the Nexus?
So he is the finisher of the team, but after watching Rich play, I'm not quite sure if finishing is the only thing that Genji does.
Well, I mean, it's Rich. Like,
Rich will turn him into a support. Like, I don't know how, Rich is magic.
Right. You can't use Rich as your line.
Right. But, he has so much maneuverability around the map. He has his trait is, a move, and his E, he can reset, so you can just dodge around, and dive around like behind enemy lines if you're comfortable with getting the kill after you E into behind the wall, get the kill, E back out, it's like watching Rich play Genji and then me trying him in try mode. It's like, what the hell is he smoking that he's able to do this? Like,
right?
And yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna agree with you. Like, the videos of Rich playing Genji are sick. Like, anybody that wants to play Genji needs to watch those videos and aspire to be that, because like that man was magic with Genji. I like that. I would fear to face that. Period. Like, he was the epitome of, like, those pictures, like my tracer and the enemy team's tracer. Like, yeah, he epitomized that with Genji, with the way he was playing Genji that night. It's been more than one night, but it was. Yes.
You would be like hug in and out, throwing shurikens and try to bait that ETC into doing a power slide, but like you just jump over him. Nope, you bitch. And then just Dragon Blade and finish him off.
That was crazy. And it shows how mobile Genji can be, right? And that was the important thing. I think that was actually the thing I took out most. Like, other than, look, any character Rich plays is like god tier, right? But watching how mobile he made that Genji be, I mean, it was just short of like Tracer movement, right? And I think that's just because Tracer is Tracer and you can't get anybody else to move quite like Tracer. But I mean, he was bouncing all over, just killing things, and it was crazy. But he's definitely, in the hands of not Rich, he's a finisher. But, I think Daji had a good point. Rich could turn him into a support and we'd all be like, what? And just accept it as truth, right? So, but Genji is a finisher, yeah.
Certainly,
to us normal mortals.
Certainly high skill cap as well, because you have to have really good battleground awareness. I think in general, as a finisher, that's just a general rule, especially with his Swift Strike reset ability. If you go in for the kill and you're counting on getting the reset, you have to make sure you do finish there. I mean, you do have your Cyber Agility jump to get you out of trouble in like a worst case scenario, but the number of Genjis I saw, because Swift Strike goes through terrain as well, like Swift striking a hero that thinks they're safe behind their wall, nope. Swift strike in there. If you don't get the kill, you can even just jump back over the wall too. So you do, and you can protect, so you don't have to, or deflect, so you don't have to worry about tower shots when you do that too. So you thought Medivh used to have a good cheese with his portal. Well, get ready for Genji too, because he's got something similar up his belt.
You know what's really great for that, and this is why I think he's such a strong finisher, right? If you think about a typical team fight, more like towards the early game, everybody's fighting, and then especially like the 5-on-5 in the middle, like right away, that we see all the time from like people of every level. The not pro version of that, like you get low, you get teams down to like half health. Genji can go through that with Swift Strike, wipe out all 3 of them who went behind their wall to tap, and then Swift Strike's either back up and he can go back the other way and probably potentially kill more, or he can just D out with Cyber Agility. But he just killed at least one of your, I think I'm safe because I ran behind the wall at level 2, right? Like it's going to be crazy.
He pops back over the wall and lights a cigarette and just relaxes,
right?
Yeah. That's how it's done. So
you can't be greedy with your hearthstones.
No.
Just like hearthing right as you get behind the wall, because Genji's gonna get you.
Or you got to go so much further. Like you got to go to the keep wall before you hearth.
Yeah. Some cool things I noticed with Genji was that if you're able to get into deflect range, with deflect, it's not deflecting the damage 1-to-1 because she throws that one shuriken out for every instance of damage it takes. So what you can do is, if you're 1v1ing an enemy hero in a lane, you can aggro the enemy minions before they reach your minions. If you deflect correctly with the enemy hero attacking you, you'll deflect 7 minions and the hero damage right back to the hero.
Right.
So,
and that's how you can wreck with that skill. Depending on where you're at and how you use it, you can there's a reason that there's like 3 or 4 Reddit threads out there about just destroying bosses with deflect and how you make that work, but especially on Hanamura. So,
just a little clarification then too, guys, because I don't know even the answer to this, but I think I might. For deflect, like if you've got someone with a really high attack speed just going at you, like a Tychus or even like a Tasta or a Tracer, are you sending like 5-6 deflects back at them then too, just from them like aggregating during the deflect?
Yeah, it's like crazy. come at me, Tychus. Tychus is the best one. Like really, use your D, buddy. Deflect, ting 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 ting. No, Tychus can't stand. We may have to test that, Mystic, because I don't think Tychus can stand there and just go into Genji like that. I mean, certainly when deflect is down, but I don't know that Tychus is going to survive or not take enough to be like, oh, I got to back out.
Deflect pretty much reflects every instance of damage. So it could be spell damage, dots like poisons, auto attacks, spell, tower shots. It does it all.
And imagine if you got a Tychus, right? And you're let's say you're laning, right? You're Genji, you're laning against the Tychus. You jump into Tychus's minions, deflect Tychus and the minion damage all at Tychus because it's going to prioritize the hero. So you have all 7 minions attacking you, plus let's be reasonable. You have 4 minions attacking you, plus Tychus attacking you. Like the shuriken are flying, man. Like Tychus doesn't want to stand there anymore. So
while you're standing in a psionic storm from Tastar, because that ticks periodically with his beam on you. Next thing you know, you got 50 shurikens flying off you.
Just flying. Yeah.
I mean, that's something.
And Arthas will have to be careful with their E ability.
Yep. Yeah, he's like the ultimate. Don't come near me with a skill because I'm just gonna reflect the damage back on you.
Maybe something for Dr. Daz's science lab experiment. How many deflects can you get off? We'll have to set up the ideal situation. See we can set up for that. You'll help me out with that one?
Test that. Yes, that is. I want to do that.
AI in try mode would not be helpful to help me set that one up.
Now, custom game, Mystic and I on one side, Tracer Tychus with some minions going at you, and we'll see what you can do. Yeah, let's do it.
So, Mystic, do you think he's going to find his way into pro play?
I do, but I feel like he might be niche because in professional play, people are a lot better at surviving, right? So if you go in at the wrong time, if you swift strike and then they don't die, right, because of a Medivh shield or some clutch healing or something, then you're going to be up the creek without a swift strike. So
Right. The challenge in pro play is heroes like this, they know how to play around. So you'll see him, he'll be all up and down the ladder. 100% he'll be all up and down the ladder. But in pro play, it's going to be, I think Mystic is right, it's going to be way more niche.
And what do you guys think about him in terms of like late game, early game hero? Like my impressions of him, he was a lot stronger in the later game, especially after he gets his ultimate. Because maybe Mystic already kind of mentioned it, Dragon Blade in particular, which I think is far superior to X-Strike. I mean, we can have a discussion here, but seems to like really output quite a bit of damage. Just so everyone knows too, when you do have your Dragon Blade out for those 8 seconds, you lose your Shuriken ability and you can't auto attack. So you've like changed your ability into a big sweeping strike style ability, but it is big AoE damage and it's significant. You can get chunk a lot of it out there, and you get the resets on your swift strike, so you can get around the battlefield with that too. I'm sure Rich is like loving that ability. Whereas X Strike, like I was testing it out a little bit, a few strikes of your Dragon Blade and you do as much as like hitting someone with the center of X Strike, which is kind of hard to hit because there is quite a bit of a delay on it. Especially like it's like strike, then boom, right? You got to hit someone right in the middle to get all 3 of those strikes. It seems almost like Dragon Blade is superior in most situations. Do you guys have any sort of thoughts on that too? Is there any reason to take X Strike over Dragon Blade?
I think we'll see a buff to X Strike post release. I think we'll get out. We'll see a buff. Like in theory, it's great with the Wombo, because you can put it down like Void Prison, right? Void Prison lands. You can drop your X Strike. You can drop Void Prison at like 1 second, and then they're gonna all take that damage because they're all in the area of effect, right? But like, is it really
Dragon
worth
Blades
that?
does pretty much the same thing, right? And then you still Dragon Blade up for another like 6 seconds.
The catch with the 2 Dragon Blades is you have to have something to contain them when that Void Prison drops. So if you don't have like an Azeba Wall or an APOC or a Mosh Pit, it's harder to land the Dragon Blade. Where if it's just like Genji and Zeratul, you can pull off the X Strike Wombo. But it needs it's not gonna get picked. At 90 mana and the same cooldown as Dragon Blade, there's no way that gets picked. Like, we're going to see Hot Slogs a week from Tuesday, and that's going to be like 10% choice over the other one.
I was almost surprised at what the cooldown was. Is 80 seconds the same as Dragon Blade, whereas Dragon Blade performs its job but better? I was expecting it to be like 60-second cooldown.
Right. Yeah. And if that's the buff they do, that may change it. But they need to do something, because right now there's no real reason to take X Strike, unless, like I said, you happen to have just a Zeratul and you're like, hey, like Mystic and I go into a game and I'm like, I'll void him, you X Strike him, and we'll call it a day, right? Get what we can, and maybe we'll get a kill, follow it up with Swift Strike.
And Dragon Blade, it does something that X Strike doesn't do, which is it changes your playstyle, because once you pick up Dragon Blade, you become a backline burst diver.
Yeah.
Because once you dive into the back line and you see like the Malfurion right there, and then you activate Dragon Blade and start going to town on him, that Malfurion's dead in like 2 to 3 seconds if the team doesn't come help that Malfurion. Now, in a meta where it's very frontline heavy, where frontline pretty much equals crowd control, will the enemy team have time to actually save the Malfurion when your front line is assisting in the crowd control and buying time for you to do your thing? And then maybe with Uther coming back into the meta, there's Divine Shield, there's things like that keeps Genji in the backline for a longer period of time.
Right. You're going to D in, you're going to pop your Dragon Blade, do a whole bunch of damage. They're going to run, and you're going to hit your Swift Strike, and you're going to kill them all and reset Swift Strike.
Yeah. And that's
like
with the level
the backline apart.
With the level 20 upgrade that gives you 1 extra second per hit, it actually counts multiple seconds if you hit more than one hero. And
Ogre brought up a good point too, though. X Strike in chat. X Strike is safer depending on your comp. So, I totally give props to him. He's right about this. We're talking about it. We're doing the not gank bush squad thing. We're talking about it at the level of play that we're used to playing at, where you can go in and you can use Dragon Blade and you can get kills and you can get out and like your team is going to do the right things to enable Genji to do that. Where if you don't have a team that's going to do all those right things, you can end up as the dead Genji, right? Like where X Strike, you drop it on the ground, you do some damage, you run away, right? It's more, it's Lightning Breath-esque. It's not, because Lightning Breath's a little different. I'm like struggling. Oh, you know what? It's like Asmo's other cooldown, not Blackpool, but the Hellfire one. It's like that, right? You can drop it and you can walk away. You'll either get something out of it or you won't. Like, but you're not dying over it.
One other thing about Dragon Blade 2 is, because I wasn't sure about it, so I tested it out in try mode as well. It's 50 mana, but once you unleash the blade, all of your strikes, like where you're sweeping the blade around, don't actually cost mana too. So it's not. I was worried. I was like, hey, well maybe it's 50 mana, and every time you sweep, it's another 50 mana too. But it's not. It's just 50 mana to take out your blade, and then you're doing like sweeps basically every second.
Right.
And one of the key things I think which makes Dragon Blade so much more powerful than X Strike in most situations anyhow is the cooldown reset on Swift Strike. The fact that you have another way to get out, right? Another way to reset Swift Strike is very important. That's the kind of thing that enables someone like Rich, who can go in, get reset after reset after reset. And I'm sure Rich is probably taking Dragon Blade, 10 times out of 10 in general.
Right.
And finally, just going to quickly say that he stands on his freaking horse, guys.
That drives me nuts. Drives me nuts. I did log into PTR. I did look at him a little bit. That drove me nuts. Like, really? Like, come on. Blizzard, why?
Yeah, I got the little note.
It's not about the tactical advantage. Genji does squats, and he really wants to show it off.
Show it off.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Hey, look at that robot butt, right?
There you go. There you go.
Okay, well, let's talk about the new battleground that got announced and released on the beta as well, Hanamura, because it is a unique battleground to say the least. I'm going to go over just the basics of it, and it's a lot to digest without actually playing it, but I'll try and do my best here. So it's a 2-lane Overwatch battleground. It's very like Japanese castle style with protected cores. So the cores are protected just like in Towers of Doom. You can't do direct damage to the core. They have to be damaged indirectly. So there's 3 ways to damage the core. The core has 7 health. The primary way, and this is the main objective of the map, is a payload. Now you're escorting payloads, which periodically spawn. I think the first one spawns at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but after that, they are almost kind of like randomly spawning on both sides. You can have a maximum of 2 payloads up at any time. But the payloads periodically spawn for each team and must be escorted across the battleground. A successfully escorted payload to the endpoint deals 1 damage to the core. That being said, if a fort's taken, the next payload will deal 1 extra damage. So if you take 2 forts, that means that your next payload will actually do 3 shots to the core. So now you need to stand near the payload to make sure it progresses. The more of you that are standing near it, up to a maximum of 3 heroes, the faster it goes. However, if an enemy hero is within that range near the payload, it'll stop and it'll be contested. And if it stands still long enough with no one around it, it'll start moving backwards. So that's the main map mechanic, and I actually found that this map goes pretty quickly, at least in the beta so far. I've been playing a lot of Genji, never gotten to level 20. Wins and losses irregardless. It just seems the game usually ends by the time I get to around level 16 or so. But anyways, there's 2 other ways you can do damage to the core as well. There's sapper damage. So if you destroy the keeps, it causes sappers to spawn, and these will actually fire on the core very similar to the sappers in Towers of Doom if they reach the end of their lane. You can also do boss damage to the core. The Mega Enforcer is what they call the boss, which Liqiud was talking about before. He's in the middle of the battlefield, and he'll deal 1 damage to the core once taken. Of course, this boss is a little unique, too, because he gorges you just like Stitches. And he also throws in a massive AoE. So he hits pretty hard, and you gotta be careful. It's a bit of a throw pit in there, especially once the boss makes it a 5v4 if someone's coming to contest it, right? Like one of your guys is probably gonna be inside of the freaking boss when the other team's contesting it. So you gotta be careful. There's 3 mercenaries on the map too, 3 different kinds of mercenaries, and they're very unique too because none of them push. They give you rewards. So there's a recon camp. If you beat that camp, you get a reward, which is like a dragon token. And if you use that, just very similar to like using nukes by pressing your F on Wordhead Junction, it releases 3 dragon spirits, and they seek out the nearest 3 enemy heroes and reveals them for 5 seconds. So you can prevent ganks and stuff if you hold on to that. Dragon Spirits are destroyed after finding enemy heroes or after 10 seconds. So the fortification camp, the reward for that is you get a turret, and you can place it on top of the payload or anywhere on the map, very much like a mini Tychus turret. And then finally, there's a support camp, and you get Healing Pulse from that, which restores 35% health in an area and 23% mana to you and your allies over 15 seconds. So it's a long effect, but still it's a nice little boost heal there, especially in something like a quick match where you might not have a healer. So yeah, Hanamura, very quick map, a lot going on. To be honest with you, like trying to play this map, I tried Vikings on it, which is a nightmare. I thought they'd be really good, but it's tough because there's so much going on. But I felt like there's almost no time to take camps because you're constantly contesting payloads. You're trying to get the soak, but you're trying to do the payloads at the same time. There's offense and defense payload. There's 2 lanes. There's mercenary camps. There's just so much going on here. Bacon, have you had a chance to play it at all? What do you think about it? Is it as hectic as I think it is, or is that just me?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get used to the map. So, like, I'm just spending my entire game experience just fighting over the carts, the payloads, and then I wish I could learn the timings on or when to do the camps, but it seems like it's so busy just defending and progressing your carts that I don't have time to fit in camps.
Right.
The weird thing about the camps too is usually you try and take the camp before an objective spawns, but that isn't necessarily the case here because nothing's pushing, right? So like everything gives you a reward. So I guess maybe you want to like load up on the things before like for the actual like contesting over the payloads. But even like you said, there's just a lot of disorientation when you first get into a new map, and this one has a lot of it because there's so much stuff going on. Like when I was playing, I was like, do I defend most of the time or should I be on offense? Should I be laning because no one else seems to be laning? I don't know. I feel like no one's really figured it out yet. Mystic, have you figured
it seems out? It seems like attacking is the better way to go because normally objectives spawn together. So, everyone knows when it's going to spawn, how long we have until it spawns, and you guys fight, both teams fight over it at the same time. But I think, I might be wrong, but if you put yours in first, it starts the timer to respawn your payload.
Okay.
So, getting it in as soon as possible, it starts the clock for the next one, so you can kind of try to snowball the game into your favor.
Definitely feels like on defense it's a bit of an uphill battle too, because you might have that long skirmish, it's slowly inching forward generally most of the time unless you maybe get a team wipe, but it almost seems like you're not making any progress on yours while you're defending theirs, and really the way you win is by getting yours to the objective. So very similar, I guess, to Battlefield of Eternity, the decisions that you have to be made there as well. What do you think, right. Mystic? Do you think Bacon's onto something here? Offense is better than defense?
Yeah, the offense sounds like it would be a lot more fruitful. Like, you just push your card and them pushing theirs. And then I also think heroes that are like Lost Vikings, where you have more bodies, would be a lot better on this map. Because, like a lot of people have been saying on the forums, if you have Cho'Gall, it only counts as 1 body, even though there's 2 people. But if you have Lost Vikings, you can push it as 3 with 1 person, right?
So Vikings and Rexar reign if you can play it well, right? If you struggle with playing the Vikings, it's going to be hard to do. But yeah, Vikings is super powerful here.
I play a lot of Vikings, but I was having trouble with them on this map because there's constantly a lot of action. It's harder just to sit there and body soak. I can feel like everything's all over the place. You really have to have really good map awareness in like a macro sense for the Vikings to be able to make sure they're not dying left, right, and center.
Playing as a full team of 5 with Vikings here would be helpful, right? Because then your Vikings player only has to worry about pushing the payload and then doing Vikings thing, while the other 4 are it almost turns into a protect the Vikings comp, right? Like if you can protect the Vikings and allow the Vikings to just push the payload nonstop, then you're good to go, because you're just going to constantly get that payload pushed over, while the other 4 eliminate the enemy team and do what they need to protect the Vikings players.
And it seems like Lucio's going to be strong with his speed boost, allowing the team to roam across the map. And in response to that, I also think stealthies are going to be pretty popular too, because you want to catch people in between, them rotating from the top to bottom lane.
And that's one of the things Octoboss said in chat. Stealth will be OP here as well, and it will, right? You can, if you're running Valyria, Zagara, or not Zagara, Valyria, Zeratul, or even Nova, right? Definitely worthwhile here.
Yeah, and this is such a unique map because so much takes place out of lane. I mean, like every map has out of lane like portions to it, but it seems like the majority of the game you're not sitting in lane too often. And I've struggled with it too. Like that urge to want to make sure someone's soaking all the time seemed to be hard to overcome, and knowing when to make the decision when to join the fight, because it seems like it's almost going on all the time, and when you should be trying to get the XP advantage too is a difficult one. That's where I first was like, I got to start playing Vikings in this map because I think it'll be very powerful. But again, very interesting map. It'll be interesting to see what people take from it, and once we see a bit more pro play with it especially, it'll be interesting to see what kind of strategies evolve.
How snowbally do you think this map's going to be? Because it seems like the game revolves around the race to 10 first. Because if you get to 10 first, then you can win a team fight and start snowballing from there. And, you know, if you kill the enemy team, you can do whatever you want on the map. And, like, the Bakery was talking about a game where he pretty much got level 10 while the enemy team was level 8. And then, like, 2-3 minutes later, the game was over.
Well, that was the problem, right? Like the game is so fast. It's very it's difficult. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with it. One of the other things that was funny on Reddit is people were like, "Yeah, this isn't really a map; it's a brawl." They're just saying it's the map right now, because the games are so quick. It'll be interesting to see what happens post 2.0 launch and what makes it out of PTR. What doesn't.
Yeah, and I feel like this map is going to have tweaks. They have their set game time they're always targeting for games, and this one seems to be significantly shorter, which, I mean, like I said, I can't get my Genji or my Uther when I've been trying out the new Genji and Uthers to level 20 because you've gone to the beta right now. You're forced onto this map. Mystic, what do you think about push heroes too? I came into a few games where, you know, everyone's trying different strategies, right? I came across a Murky, and he was just, I'm pushing that lane. He pushed it all the way down. I guess his idea was maybe he can start getting the sappers to push through. Didn't really pan out in the end. And in most games, I feel like people just ignored the forts and the keeps. Maybe you got a fort to get the extra bonus shot, but the keeps I feel like were rarely threatened. What do you think about pushing as a strategy here too?
I think Murky's not all that bad just because of his bribe thing, which would be very useful on this map. Soak heroes, however, they're not so good because, you know, you want bodies on the payload and, you know, fighting and stuff. Push heroes like Zagara and Zool, I'd say Zagara is okay on this map because she can actually push really hard. Zool is not so much because he's mainly a clear hero. So Zagara, if you pushed hard enough and managed to take out a fort, then that wouldn't be bad, honestly. But I think other heroes would just be better on this map unless you're going for some sort of strategy.
Junglers.
Yeah.
Non-stop jungler. Like Sonya. Hell, even Rhaegar. Go grab a camp.
Well, speaking of Zagara, too, I can see Nidus being very powerful on this map as well, because you can jump from lane to lane, soak lanes, push him down, and you can still get to the objectives as long as you've got a very solid Nidus network set up.
Yeah.
Interesting. I guess maybe in a couple of weeks, once more strategies have evolved, we'll dive deeper into it and have a better assessment on how to handle Hanamura. Right now, though, head over to the PTR, or the beta, I guess, and yeah, it's definitely a fun one to try and wrap your head around. It's definitely a unique map and one that's got a unique flavor to it.
Yeah.
So
right now, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
Well,
I'm
just
just
gonna
saying,
move on.
well, figuring out the map, it's right now it just feels like confusion, the map, because
Right.
you know, like the first Towers of Doom spawn where 3 shrines spawn at the same time, and you're trying to divvy out who goes where and when and doing what. It just kind of feels like that for 15 minutes straight.
Well, right, and the only thing I would add to that is, except nobody there realizes that all 3 are spawning at the same time, because it's so new to so many people right now, right? So there is no one person saying, guys, this is how we're gonna do this. It's every man for himself, and they're all kind of it's all over the place, right? So yeah, It's almost like I want to go in and play a custom game with it and just let AI run for a little while, just so you can like slow the game down enough to really get good on the map.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like a lot of people aren't aware of the win conditions too when they're available. Like I was in so many games and everyone's trying to push ours, and then you got like Murky escorting his last shot payload. Like might may have 2 shots, he just got a fort like off, and then they ended up winning, or the boss gets taken and everyone was in the wrong spot. Like it just seems like there is just mass confusion the whole time. But that will hopefully settle down once people figure it out a little bit more and make sense of it. But just like any new map, you got to get used to it. So I'm gonna make a judgment call here, and we're gonna cut some of the content that we're gonna talk about today. I mean, it's okay because it's not live yet; it's still a beta patch. So there were a lot of hero changes, specifically Uther and some other heroes as well. But Uther is probably the biggest of the bunch. Got a completely different overhaul. I'll just quickly mention what happened to him, and then maybe we'll move along. We'll cover this, I promise, next week, probably along with our deep dive on Genji. So generally, Uther's a little bit different in that he grants armor to anyone he heals. And that's the big difference that I wanted to point out here. They've reduced his healing on his Q and his W, but they've made it so that once you do heal someone, they get 20 armor across the board too. And a lot of people are talking very highly of the new Uther. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Have you guys heard much from like pros experience with Uther recently and what they've been saying? How about we start with Mystic there? What are you hearing about Uther?
The thing that I've heard was, good luck killing that guy. He heals way too much.
Well, he gets a self heal too now. If you heal like a very Tyrande like, if you heal somebody else, you get to heal yourself with his Q. So, yeah, interesting little dynamic there. What do you think, Bacon? Is Uther going to be the healer of choice?
I love it because it seems like he can enable whoever the backline is. Just kind of toss a holy light on him while he's in the backline, because the range is pretty far once you finish the level 1 quest on his holy light. And with that armor and all the mitigation that happens, it's just so much value if you're able to time your heals correctly. And he's got a stun on his basic kit, which not a lot of supports have.
Yeah, the point and click stun too. Yeah, I guess that's the thing about his armor too. It lasts for 2 seconds, so you can stagger it as well, and you can actually spec into it, I think, at level 20, where you can get them to stack as well. But you can basically have your tank even after a benediction, especially with 20 armor for quite a long time. And then you've got divine shield, divine storm in your kit too. Divine shield being very powerful, always has been. So maybe Uther will make his way back in, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing him in pro play again after these reworks.
We will. So first, all I've heard is positive things from like everybody. All the pros I follow on Twitter love it. Second, Ogre again coming up with a good point. Uther and ETC is like nonstop armor for everyone. So
ETC doesn't share armor.
No, he doesn't.
No, but he doesn't need Uther giving him the armor because he'll armor himself, right? So he can push forward with his armor. Uther's armoring the back line. Now you have armor all around.
The old mosh pit divine shield combo. Yeah.
Right.
Armor Oprah.
Yeah.
You get an armor and you get an armor. Yeah.
I've been trying Uther on Hanamura on the beta recently, and I've been having a lot of what's his W called? Sorry, Wave of Light.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of Moses Wave of Light. So when I throw out the Wave of Light, my team somehow spreads out. Yeah, splits right in the middle, and I miss everybody. And I don't know how they do that and coordinate that like 5 times in a row. It's pretty amazing.
They're like, "Oh, you want to heal us? Nope."
They're already confused on Hanamura, don't know what to do. They're just running around like crazy, right?
Right.
Oh, here comes an enemy skill shot. Oh, I gotta dodge it.
Yeah, please stack everybody.
It's always been the challenge for Uther healing, just optimizing that wave of light. So Bacon, you've got, as I mentioned off the top of the show, a very similar segment to what Mystic does, kind of your strategy segment called Bacon's Bits. Would you like to grace us with a Bacon Bit segment for today?
Yeah, sure. And I even have this little thing on my own little tag intro for it.
Oh,
so
sweet.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it'll work, but let's go. Oh, bacon. That's it right there. It took me like 20 minutes to find that clip too. I don't think it was worth it.
I think the first website I ever made had like some audio clips from The Simpsons. I believe that was one of them too, back in like the mid '90s on GeoCities. For those who are old enough to remember the '90s.
I do.
All right, you'll take away, Bacon.
All right, so Bacon's Bits is basically my little tip series. I've climbed the ladder from preseason. I was silver around the silver level, and then I made it to masters around season 1. So I've kind of compiled a lot of the things that I believe in climbing the ladder and my philosophies. And part 1 is the mentality of climbing Hero League. And I'm going to be harsh with everybody because there are some realities to Hero League and ranking up that you guys need to understand and kind of accept before diving into Hero League, because it's going to take a lot of games to rank up a small amount. So I'm going to give you some math. 55% win rate, which is actually a really good win rate. If you have 55% win rate, you should just grind games because you don't actually belong where you are right now. But 55% over 200 games, you'll go from silver 5 to silver 1, and that's 200 games, which is about 67 hours of game time if you have 20-minute games, excluding drafting phase. So that's even more time. If you have a 52% win rate, which is respectable, which is kind of just slightly above average, it'll take 500 games to go from silver 5 to silver 1, and which is about 167 hours of game time. So you have to ask yourself, what do you want out of Hero League? Because how many games are you willing to play? You know, you just have to be real with yourself, because if you're going to say, I'm silver 5 right now and I'm going to go to plat 5 in the course of a season, but I can only play 10 games a week, you have to be real with yourself. Set a reasonable goal, because you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. And in terms of climbing the ladder, you have to enjoy the journey, not the destination. Because if you're trying to rank up to get out of so-called MMR hell, you're going to be disappointed, because games are hard to win at your level, and if you progress to a better ranking, games are still going to be equally hard, because the system has decided you belong at that ranking to be at 50% win rate. So even though there are less trolls in the upper leagues, throws happen all the time, the games are still going to be hard, so you're still going to be suffering to climb the ladder. So make sure you love Hero League and the competitive ladder before you start this journey. And knowing all the strategies and the meta does not guarantee you a victory. In a non-professional setting, individual can make up a difference for a bad draft. Now, an awful draft, maybe not, but you can carry your own weight and try to see what you can do with it. And the hardest part to accept, you will lose about half your games. Get used to it. It sucks. It's going to happen. That's the reality. And the second part of this is understanding yourself. And we start with the Dunning-Kruger effect. So what the Dunning-Kruger effect is, the more inept you are at a skill, the more highly you think of yourself at it. So we all have pockets of knowledge in the game, things we're good at. So I'm a pretty good support. I'm an all right tanker. I'm a semi-good carry. And then we all have holes within our knowledge where, we can't automatically assume that this is going to happen because of, so I don't know how to finish that sentence. So, but you are your own MMR hell. So we tend to take our ideal level of play and think that standard applies across every Hero League match we play. So if you set that standard, an impossible standard for yourself, we are never 100% every day. So you're just going to be frustrated and disappointed. So be real with how well you can play. Some days we play well, some days we play poorly. So just kind of accept that we're all human. So be the first to apologize and admit mistakes. It is a great way to calm down the situation and let the game move on. I had some games where I kind of dove dove too much, I died, and I did that multiple times throughout the game. And then every time I said I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'll do better. And initially, I got flamed for it, but as I kept apologizing, I tried to calm everybody down, and then we were able to come back and win the game. And this was us on a Dragon Knight game. I specifically remember that. So there are things you can do even if you make a mistake. You can try to calm the team down. So this kind of goes into understanding others. The biggest thing that I hear in silver and gold level players, and especially bronze, is trolls. So trolls ruin your game experience. They're terrible to play with and play against. And I just want to say the math is on your side. So if you are a player you can completely rely on every single game to try his best, that means there are 4 slots on your team where there could be trolls, and then there's 5 slots on the enemy team where there could be trolls, because it is all random, right? Yeah. So 20% of your team you can completely rely on all the time. So you kind of have to use that into your advantage. So over time, over hundreds of games you play, the trolls will actually be advantage to you, because over time there'll be less trolls on your team. And be nice to others. We are quick to judge others for bad play while we do not admit to our own mistakes. And we all do this. We judge others by their actions, usually their mistakes, and ourselves by our intentions. And you have your own strengths and weaknesses. Just because you are good at one aspect of the game doesn't mean you are a better player. You may be good at map rotations and shot calling, while the other player may be better at team fighting and stutter stepping. So you always have to keep in mind, and communicate with your team so you can properly coordinate. And just in summary, I guess, you're the hero of your own story. You can blame a teammate for a loss, but if you're stuck in the same rank after 100 games, 200 games, you're the only person to blame. So self-improvement through practice is the key. So how do you practice? That's part 2, and I'm going to be doing that on the Gankbush.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Left you guys hanging.
Yeah, and they
record. The next part, I'm just going to kind of cover things you can practice inside and outside of the game to improve your mechanics and your game knowledge.
You guys are recording tomorrow, I believe, probably putting up the show on Friday. Is that typically your guys' schedule for Gankbush Squad too?
We record Thursday night, and then we release on Friday.
So keep an ear out for Bacon's Bits on the Gankbush Squad. And I really hope that more people listen to that segment, because it can be a salty place in Hero League. And if everyone just listened to Bacon, the world would be a much better place.
Well, let me just say, there are a lot of games where it got salty real quick between 2 players that are, kind of bickering at each other. And there are things you can do to mitigate that or diffuse the situations and turn games around more often than not. Mm-hmm. So,
don't feed the trolls.
Don't feed the trolls. And imagine a situation where someone says, "Oh, you suck," and then what are you going to respond to? You have assault free bacon. I just read that. Okay. Yeah. So if someone starts crap with you and then you respond like, "Oh, eat shit," and go kill yourself, right? That's what trolls say. And then what's he gonna do? He's gonna respond negatively and probably throw the game.
Well, at that point, the entire team's throwing the game at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. And you are part of the throw of the game. So just positivity is the key.
Yes, very wise words, sir. So we're gonna move on to our final segment, because we're quickly approaching the longest episode we've ever had. And we're just going to do the punishment for the HOTS debate. Now, if you listened to last week's show, you would have heard myself and Liqiud debate a topic about frequency of updates being good for the game. Well, apparently 81% of you agreed that Liqiud won that debate, and that frequency updates that we currently are having are great for the game. So as a punishment, I had to theory craft Here's the Storm Hero based on Liqiud, including a full kit, backstory, ultimates, and design. So I've put together a little bit here. I'm going to start with Liquid's backstory. So once upon a time, when the world was a much simpler place, there existed a young boy named Liqiud. Liqiud lived a privileged life as the son of a rich merchant in Stormwind, knowing no hardship or sorrow.
What is happening?
That was until the orcs came. During the first war with the orcs, both of Liquid's parents were killed, and little orphan Liquid was forced to grow up on his own. And fast. Forced into thievery to survive, Liquid made his home in the dark underbelly of the slums of Azeroth. It was here where Liquid met young Valera. Also an orphan, Valera and Liquid became fast friends. Liquid quickly became infatuated with Valera, hiding his love for her under the guise of friendship. But before Liquid had a chance to express his true feelings, Liquid and Valera were forever separated when Valera was caught and jailed for stealing a shaman's talisman. As Valera was hauled off to the gladiator pits by Rhaegar, Liquid's spiral downwards began quickly. This is where the paranoia began. Heartbroken, Liquid became a paranoid recluse, often found muttering to himself about conspiracy and his dear, dear Valera. In his torment, Liquid barely slept, often visiting the gladiator pits and incessantly recording statistics about every detail of every battle. It was this that would be his demise. Convinced that the establishment was making him watch illusions of past matches and not live events, Liquid raged into an insatiable fury, storming unarmed to the very gladiator pits that took his beloved Valera, and ultimately took his life as well. So that's the backstory for Liquid.
Oh my god! You made me a rogue tank! I love it!
I don't even know if rogue tanks exist. But
They,
for those of you
not in this game, but they definitely do somewhere.
for those of you that don't know, Liquid's got an unhealthy obsession with Valera, and I think that might have come out even earlier this show. So I wanted to make sure that, as well as his incessant stats taking, came into this. So I've got his kit here as well. So he's a Warcraft human melee rogue tank. So let's start with his trait, I guess. It's an activatable trait. It's called Insomnia. As Liquid refuses not to miss any of the action, he cannot hearth back to the core. Instead, he can activate his trait after not having taken any damage for 3 seconds to heal 50% of his mana and health. I try to make it an actual viable hero, too. We'll see.
Right. No, I totally dig this, dude.
So on his Q, he's got Violent Assault. Liquid dashes in a direction, and if he contacts a hero, so I made it so it could be an escape, too. If he contacts a hero, his dash is stopped. He grabs the hero, yelling nonsense at them while shaking them violently, stunning them for 1 second. This damages all the minions in the path, so he's got a little bit of wave clear, and does slight damage to the hero. On his W, he's got Cone of Anger. After a short delay, Liquid projects a Cone of Anger, damaging and pulling all the affected enemies a short distance towards the caster. I want to make sure he's got a little bit of peel, too, since he's a tank, right? And on his E, he's got Attention to Detail. All heroes near Liquid gain 1 second of immunity to all status effects, making them unstoppable. However, this does not affect heroes that are already stunned, rooted, or silent, so it has to be like a pre-cleanse. So I thought that was kind of a neat way to spin that in there. And we've got two ultimates, too. First ultimate, the most picked on Hot Slogs, is Tin Hat. After a short delay, Liquid yells at an area, affecting all those within its radius of acute paranoia for 4 seconds, both friendly and enemy. All affected heroes walk in random directions, blubbering nonsense and targeting the nearest hero, friend or foe, with basic attacks. Heroes cannot be controlled during this effect. This will always affect the caster, even if he's not within the blast radius. So. And then his second ultimate is Valera's Lament. Liquid becomes enraged for a duration of 10 seconds, giving him 40 armor, increasing his basic attack damage by 100%.
Oh my god, dude. I love this. This is awesome.
And that, I'll put those in the show notes too. I wanted to keep it a surprise, so I didn't put that in there in advance.
I know. I was so happy that you didn't put it. I was like so worried that at the bottom you had it in there. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Oh my god.
So that's Liquid's rogue tank, complete with backstory and everything. And for those of you who don't know, we typically do a HOTS debate every third week. So next week will be a week off, then we'll do it again the next week, time permitting. Sometimes we just run too long because we like to babble, especially Liquid about esports, apparently, too.
You definitely can't put Bacon and I in a room and expect us to hit a time. It's not going to happen.
We'll do a special episode, just the two of you guys, maybe. But
for real, about the Koreans, right? And the NA scene.
No, stop talking. Because I know Liquid's just dying to talk more about that. So you know what? I'm going to cut the show off right here. So thanks, everyone, for listening to Nexus Trolls, the Heroes of the Storm podcast. We stream this live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/the Nexus Trolls, every week on Wednesdays at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. So Liquid, where can people find you on the interwebs?
So the best place is actually Twitter, twitter.com/LiquidGG, LIQIUDGG. You can also follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/LiquidGG. Again, that's LIQIUDGG. Mystic and I do a lot of casting of Chair League, HGCNA, Helix Gamers League, just various tournaments and stuff. Have a good time doing it. And then, of course, the Nexus Trolls. So, and I'm just gonna real quick pimp another show. Daz and Mystic know I've been like really working to find an outlet for some of the like data points I keep gathering after watching all these HGC games. Well, one of the guys that does a Reddit post every week with like elos of all the teams and kind of like prepping you for the games ahead, used to have a show called 323 Weekly that he did for a couple of weeks, but that kind of fell to the wayside. Him and I are actually starting that back up tomorrow. That's going to be on twitch.tv/DBSmiley. But I'll tweet out a link to that and then end up posting it on my channel as well to help people find it. So, yes.
Definitely looking forward to checking that out. Now, Mystic, you joined Twitter today. Where can people find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Mystic Shroud at Twitter. So, pretty simple.
We can't promise he'll be active. And then I also have at Daz Hots, so DAZHOTS. I recently started using it like my personal one for hot stuff. Before I was always just the one doing at the Nexus Trolls, which is our main Twitter account. And then Bacon, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find the show at GamePushSquad.com, which is the Gamepush Squad podcast. I guess, the first or the only explicit Heroes of the Storm podcast. And we do say some offensive stuff sometimes, so it's just a little warning there. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Bacon Hots, and you can find me on Twitch at Bacon Hots. And I will hopefully start streaming very, very soon, sometime this week. I've been taking it a little bit easy on Hero League recently, but I want to get back into it and climb the ladder.
Sweet.
And I'm more of like a commentary style, so I'm like trying to explain what I'm doing in the moment, and a lot of little minute details I try to throw out. So yeah.
I can't do that. I just like I bash myself and like, why would they do that, or why did I do that? Like I have a hard time saying this is why I chose this talent. So I struggle. That's why I don't cast my own games. I can cast other people's games, but my own games it just doesn't work as well. So
well, more often than that, I'm just like, oh, I did not mean to do that. I'm distracted.
Well, you've got a great temperament, I think, and also a lot of game knowledge. I think everyone will benefit from watching your streams, and I definitely know I'll be popping in from time to time to watch those as well. So thanks also to all our Patreon supporters. If you like the show and you're looking for a way to support it, you can always head on over to patreon.com/thenexustrolls and support us there. You can also subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. And please, please feel free to leave a 5-star review on those sites. It really helps. And if you do leave a 5-star review and a comment, we'll make sure we feature on the show. You can also visit our website at www.nexustrolls.com to watch this and past shows, along with past video streams, which can also be found on our YouTube channel. For announcements about the shows and general Heroes of the Storm news, follow us on Twitter at the Nexus Trolls. And finally, if you need to get in touch with us, the best way is by email at podcast@thenexustrolls.com. And for those of you who've been listening for the past few weeks, you may know that Twitch doesn't like the fact that we were using AC/DC recently. So we've been struggling finding an outro, but I got someone to actually craft an outro for us based on TNT Nexus Trolls by AC/DC, and we're going to try that right now. Here we go. Have a good night, everybody.